The vote was unanimous. Humanity was too dangerous to exist in the galaxy. The order was simple: exile Earth, or erase it. The council laughed as they expected humans to grovel or beg. They forgot one thing: humans don't beg. We vanish, we adapt, and then we come back with fire. They voted. We left. And now, we're coming home. The chamber of the Galactic Concordium held its breath, 1,000 alien eyes watching the lone human standing before them. Towering crystalline pillars refracted the cold blue light onto polished obsidian floors, reflecting the rigid figure of Commander Elias Maddox. His battle-scarred black armor absorbed the light as he stood motionless, the predator amid diplomats. The Supreme Arbiter, a pale, gelatinous being of the Milari race, shifted in its suspension field. Its voice rippled through the hall. By consensus of 300 civilizations, the human species is hereby ordered into permanent exile from galactic space. Any attempt to resist will be met with eradication. The verdict thundered across the council floor, and the assembled species erupted into a cacophony of hisses, growls, clicks, and guttural roars of satisfaction. Humanity had long been the outlier, the unpredictable beast among cautious prey. Their survival instincts, technological audacity, and unwillingness to submit had terrified the council. Now, at last, they believed the problem was solved. Maddox raised his head, the faintest smirk curling the edge of his lips. His voice, sharp as the edge of a monofilament blade, cut through the chaos. You convene to discuss our fate as if we were domesticated animals. You assume we will kneel, plead, or beg. He stepped forward with glacial calm. You've miscalculated. The voices fell silent, the air crackling under the weight of his defiance. The Valor Apex delegate, a towering slab of armored muscle, leaned forward. Do you dare defy the Concordium, human? Maddox tapped a small, blinking device on his wrist. The data pulse traveled faster than light to every human fleet, every colony, every outpost. I don't defy you. I simply don't care what you vote. At that instant, galactic comms feeds erupted in alarms. Holographic maps flickered wildly. Dozens of human colonies, gone. Ships. Outposts. Entire worlds had vanished into nothingness. The Concordium scrambled in panic, their sensors blind to what had just occurred. The Milari Arbiter's gelatinous mass rippled violently. What have you done? Maddox's eyes narrowed, cold steel in his gaze. We call it Project Nocturne. You voted to exile us. We didn't wait to be asked twice. The silence in the chamber deepened into suffocating dread. The Tsirith, whose crystalline empire spanned 5 sectors, whispered in disbelief. They've disappeared beyond phase recognition. Impossible. Maddox chuckled once, a sound with no mirth. You've called us unpredictable for centuries. Why stop now? He paced slowly, boots striking the obsidian floor with deliberate menace. You thought we'd come here to beg for mercy. Instead, we came to say goodbye. The assembled warlords, generals, and diplomats whispered among themselves in horror. The Varkos delegate slammed his clawed fist onto the council bench. You are one species! You cannot survive alone beyond known space. Maddox turned his gaze on the alien. We're not alone. We are human. Alone is what made us. A sharp series of tones echoed from the council's master console. A panicked Concordium technician stumbled forward, scales pale with terror. Multiple galactic beacons offline. Human fleets disappearing. Weapon grids severed. There's nothing left to track. Maddox stood at the center, a black silhouette of absolute certainty. You built an empire of order, rules, and fear of the unknown. We are the unknown. He gestured lazily at the starlit projection hovering above. You don't know where we've gone. You won't. But you will hear us again, one day. The Supreme Arbiter's voice wavered for the first time in millennia. You threaten war on the entire Concordium? No, Maddox said, stepping back toward the silent exit corridor. We offer you something worse. Uncertainty. He paused, looking back over his shoulder. Enjoy your peace. Count the days. You voted. We left. Just remember, wolves return. The heavy doors hissed shut behind him. The chamber remained paralyzed, the echoes of humanity's audacity hanging in the cold void. In the distance, hidden beyond the map stars, the Exodus Armada awaited its commander. Maddox walked toward the awaiting shuttle, the words of his ancestors ringing in his mind: "We endure. We adapt. We conquer." The Revenant's engines ignited, vanishing into hyperspace as the stunned Concordium stared at a galaxy missing its most dangerous species. The hunt had just begun. The stars beyond the viewport of the ESS Revenant shimmered like scattered shards of glass. Commander Elias Maddox stood at the center of the bridge, arms crossed, eyes locked on the swirling abyss of the dead spiral. Around him, the crew of hardened veterans worked in grim silence. The Revenant was not alone. The Exodus Armada, a fleet of hundreds of human ships of every class, waited silently in the darkness. All of them phased, cloaked, and hiding from the sensors of the Concordium. "Status?" Maddox asked. "Phase cloak stable," replied Lieutenant Hale, his voice clipped and efficient. "Long-range scans show multiple Concordium hunter fleets entering nearby sectors." Maddox's lip curled into a thin smile. "They found the bait." He tapped a control panel, bringing up a tactical map that showed 3 separate alien armadas closing in like predators who thought they had cornered wounded prey. "Activate Ghost Protocol." The command raced through the fleet. Across empty star systems, Concordium ships arrived to find human colonies eerily abandoned. Massive orbital habitats floated cold and dead. Cities lay in perfect order, but lifeless. When the aliens sent ground forces, traps were triggered. Kinetic rods launched from orbit obliterated drop ships. Autonomous drones with silent gravitic engines stalked invaders, tearing apart squads with surgical precision. The aliens never saw a human face, never captured a single survivor. "Report from Sector Epsilon," Hale said. "The Valor fleet just walked into the Lagrange minefield. 6 dreadnoughts gone." Maddox nodded with cold satisfaction. "They'll come harder now. Panic makes them reckless." On the bridge of the Concordium flagship Ascendance, High Warlord Kyralos slammed his clawed fists against the control console. The Valor were bred for war, yet in this campaign they fought shadows. His eyes burned as another report came in. Another fleet vanished. Another colony empty. "They mock us," he growled. "They leave their dead worlds as warnings." The Concordium Council convened an emergency session aboard the Sanctum Apex. "We cannot find them," shrieked the Coran delegate. "They are phantoms." The Milari Arbiter's gelatinous mass pulsed nervously. "We cannot afford to appear weak. Deploy the Devourer Armada." The Devourer Armada was the last resort, an amalgamation of the most brutal fleets ever assembled. 15 Apex-class war titans led it, commanded by Valor Apex warlords, towering monstrosities of muscle and armor engineered for galactic war. They had never lost a campaign. The order was given. The hunt began. Back aboard the Revenant, alarms flared softly. "Contact," Hale reported. "Multiple phase distortions incoming. Concordium signature confirmed. Devourer Armada." Maddox stared at the screen, the incoming mass of ships blotting out entire sectors of the map. "Perfect," he whispered. He keyed the fleet-wide channel. "All units phase hard. Initiate iron protocols. Time to remind the galaxy who they tried to exile." The human fleet slipped into the swirling darkness of the dead spiral. One by one, ships scattered, luring the Devourer Armada deeper into the maelstrom. On board the Ascendants, Kyralos barked commands. "Pursue. Box them in." The trap had been set. The human Black Legion Marines deployed first. Clad in adaptive combat armor, cybernetically enhanced, they drifted silently among the wreckage fields left by previous battles. As the Devourer Armada's war titans entered, the Black Legion struck. Boarding pods slammed into alien hulls. Hatches were breached. The halls of the war titans became slaughterhouses. "Squad Theta, breach confirmed." Sergeant Rourke's voice crackled in the comms. "Multiple Apex warlords on Deck 12. Engaging." Inside the brutal corridors of the War Titan Relentless Fury, Rourke's squad advanced. The Valor Apex warriors met them head-on, swinging vibroaxes and crushing armor with clawed gauntlets. Rourke dodged a massive blow, rolling under the beast's legs and driving a plasma-edged combat blade deep into the creature's spine. It howled and collapsed. The Black Legion showed no mercy. Across the fleet, similar scenes unfolded. Explosions gutted corridors. Bulkheads vented atmosphere and bodies into space. Entire decks of alien warships were overrun. Where the Apex warlords expected terror, they found humans charging into certain death with cold, calculated rage. On the bridge of the Revenant, Hale turned to Maddox. "Enemy fleets are scattering. They believe they've lost control." "Good," Maddox said. "Activate phase shift beacon." A silent pulse spread from the Revenant. Across the spiral, hidden human ships decloaked and launched coordinated assaults. Concordium ships disappeared in streaks of blue-white light as mass drivers and Singularity warheads detonated. Kyrallos watched in horror as his armada crumbled. "Impossible," he whispered. "They were supposed to be cornered." Maddox's message came through all frequencies. "You've invaded our territory. We warned you. You thought exile meant surrender. Exile meant freedom to rewrite the rules." As the last of the Concordium forces fell back, Maddox stood quietly, watching their burning wreckage drift into the abyss. His voice was calm, ruthless. "Signal the fleet. Prepare for Phase Omega. It's time." The Exodus Armada vanished into the void once again, leaving nothing but silence and the shredded remains of the Devourer Armada behind them. The Concordium had thrown their strongest, and they had failed. They would not get another chance. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The command deck of the ESS Revenant was cloaked in cold anticipation. Commander Elias Maddox stood silent, watching the final telemetry come in. The scattered remnants of the Concordium's Devourer Armada still drifted like shattered bones in the void. But Maddox knew the enemy would never accept defeat. The Council would send everything. They had no choice. It was how predators behaved when their prey refused to die. "Incoming signals," Lieutenant Hale said, voice sharp. "Multiple fleets. 53 Capital-class warships, hundreds of escorts. The full Concordium Grand Armada. They've found us." Maddox's steel-gray eyes didn't waver. "Good. Let them come." The Exodus Armada tightened its formation within the center of the dead spiral, a place so twisted by gravity wells and unstable quantum tides that most species dared not enter. The Revenant and her fleet had made it home. The Concordium now walked willingly into the jaws of the trap. On the bridge of the Concordium flagship's Sanctum Apex, High Warlord Kyrallos seethed as the holographic display showed human ships clustered like baited prey. "They have nowhere left to run," he snarled. His subordinate, the insected strategist Clathix, clicked its mandibles nervously. "They want us to engage." "The risk," Kyrallos roared. "Enough! Advance all ships. Engage at will." The Concordium fleets surged forward. Plasma lances and antimatter salvos screamed into the void as hundreds of weapons targeted the seemingly exposed human vessels. Hulls glowed white-hot under the onslaught. The Revenant shuddered as several hits slammed into its shielding. Maddox stood unmoved. "Hold fire. Let them commit fully." The human ships endured, refusing to break formation. The Concordium fell deeper into the gravitational well. Then Maddox gave the order. "Now." The Exodus Armada vanished. The Concordium fleet hesitated for the briefest second, confused as targets disappeared. Then the nightmare began. Human Black Legion boarding pods rained from cloak-strike cruisers that had been waiting just beyond the detection envelope. Hundreds of pods, black as obsidian, punched through shielding and hulls like cosmic daggers. Kyrallos spun as proximity alarms howled across his flagship. "What is this?" The first explosions ripped through Concordium dreadnoughts. The Black Legion, humanity's ultimate assault troops, stormed through the corridors. They wore articulated, gravitic-powered exosuits and bore weapons designed to vaporize anything in their path. The aliens had never seen such relentless savagery. On board the Sanctum Apex, the bridge doors exploded inward. Maddox himself stepped through, flanked by a dozen Black Legion Marines. His armor bore the scars of 100 campaigns. His voice was low, controlled, terrifying. "High Warlord! You were looking for me." Kyralos charged with a guttural war cry, his massive armored frame swinging a plasma-forged battle axe. Maddox sidestepped smoothly, raised his gauntlet hand, and fired a graviton pulse that crushed the alien warlord to the deck with bone-shattering force. Kyralos writhed, snarling in agony. "I told you not to follow," Maddox said coldly, stepping over him. The Black Legion cleared the rest of the bridge in seconds. The surviving Concordium officers cowered as Maddox stared them down. In every ship across the battle zone, the same brutal pattern played out. Human Marines fought with unmatched ferocity. Valor Apex warlords, the supposed ultimate weapons of the Concordium, fell under coordinated human fireteams wielding experimental rail weapons and close-quarters plasma blades. One by one, the towering aliens fell to smaller, faster, deadlier human soldiers who refused to yield. Sergeant Rourke led his squad through the burning remains of the Apex-class dreadnought Vengeance of Akarath. A Valor giant roared and lunged. Rourke ducked under its swing and fired his railgun point-blank into the creature's chest. The kinetic round poured through armor and flesh alike, sending the beast crashing backward in a spray of alien blood. "Another one down," Rourke muttered. "Keep moving." Back aboard the Revenant, Hale turned to Maddox as real-time battle updates streamed in. "Casualties heavy, but enemy fleets disintegrating. They weren't ready for the Iron Protocol." Maddox's voice remained hard as iron. "No one ever is." The Sanctum Apex drifted powerless in space, its command crew detained, its hull scarred and burning. Maddox transmitted to all Concordium channels. His words carried through the wreckage-strewn battlefield. "You brought your hounds to hunt us. You assumed we would retreat, beg, break. You learned too late. We are not prey." Silence answered him. The remaining Concordium vessels powered down weapons and initiated surrender protocols. Hale stared at the main display. "They've stopped fighting." "Of course they have," Maddox replied, watching the burning carcasses of enemy warships drift into the abyss. "They finally understand." He tapped the console again. "Signal the fleet. Withdraw to phase point 0. Leave nothing behind. Nothing salvageable. Let them sit here and count the cost." The Exodus Armada slipped away into the black, silent, and invisible once more. The battlefield remained, an open graveyard of twisted wreckage and broken pride. In the silence of deep space, only the dying sparks of the Concordium fleet remained to bear witness. The galaxy had sent everything it had to break humanity. And humanity had answered with steel and blood. The hunt was over. The war was not. The stars twisted unnaturally at the edge of the dead spiral. On board the SS Revenant, Commander Elias Maddox stood before the flickering tactical display. The enemy had broken, fled, and burned, but Maddox knew this wasn't victory. It was the prologue. Humanity had not survived the hunt merely to run. Now came the final movement of the plan that had been centuries in the making. The command crew watched in silence as Maddox gave the order. "Initiate Protocol Eidolon." Lieutenant Hale hesitated for the briefest of seconds. His voice barely held steady. "Sir, are we certain?" "There's no going back. We never intended to go back." Maddox pressed his hand onto the console, sealing the command. The dead spiral answered. The gravity wells that had always defied explanation began to stabilize, revealing massive hidden structures that emerged from the shadows of fractured space-time. What the Concordium had believed to be a barren, cursed void had been a lie. The largest mobile war construct ever built in galactic history shifted and awakened. The Eidolon rose from the darkness, an artificial world ship the size of a moon, bristling with energy weapons, kinetic batteries, quantum lance arrays, and an impossibly dense hull of adaptive alloys. It had been built in silence, piece by piece, in exile, by generations of human engineers working under the ultimate secrecy. The remains of the Concordium fleet panicked. On the bridge of the crippled flagship's sanctum apex, the Milari arbiter stared in horror. "What is that?" "It's not a ship," gasped the insectoid Clathix. "It's a planet." The Revenant transmitted a single phrase across every open channel. Maddox's voice carried absolute authority. "You tried to erase us. We built the weapon to erase you." The Eidolon powered up. The supermassive singularity cannon on its forward spire began to charge, drawing energy from the quantum foam of reality itself. Warning lights flared across every sensor array in the region. The remaining Concordium warships tried to flee. They never had a chance. From his command seat, Maddox watched with cold calculation. "Target, Concordium homeworld. Priority Alpha. Fire!" The singularity cannon discharged. Space folded violently as a spear of raw annihilation carved through subspace itself. The Concordium homeworld, trillions of kilometers away, had no warning. The capital planet of the Council ceased to exist. Not vaporized. Not burned. Erased. An empty void where it had once been. The Concordium center of power vanished as if it had never existed. Gasps and screams echoed across every channel. Maddox listened in cold silence. The message was delivered. "Let them feel what they intended for us." The Eidolon moved forward, its massive defense grid activating as Concordium survivors attempted to retaliate. Entire flotillas vanished under coordinated strikes from autonomous hunter drones and long-range gravitic accelerators. The battle became slaughter. On board the wreck of the Valor Titan dreadnought Blood Rain, Sergeant Rourke led the last wave of Black Legion Marines. The Apex warlords had gathered their surviving champions for a last stand. Rourke's squad stormed into the inner sanctum under blistering fire. Plasma bolts carved through the darkness. The Valor charged, howling. Rourke ducked under a swinging axe, rolled, and drove a rail spike through the creature's back. Another Apex warrior lunged and was torn apart by coordinated fire. The battle was brutal, fast, and final. The last of the warlords fell, defiant to the end. Rourke's breathing rasped in his helmet. "All targets down." On the bridge of the Revenant, Hale whispered. "The Council, the fleet, the warlords, gone." Maddox did not move. "And yet they still believe we can be broken." "Signal the fleet. Prepare the Exodus Armada for Phase Omega." The surviving human ships realigned in perfect formation. The Eidolon moved with them, now fully integrated into the human fleet structure. Maddox broadcast one final message, transmitted across all surviving Concordium systems. His tone was not arrogant. It was absolute. "You wanted our extinction. You voted for our exile. You pursued us to the ends of the galaxy. Now understand this. We were born in chaos. Forged by betrayal. Evolved in exile. You no longer have the power to dictate terms. We are not your subjects. We are not your prey. We are the architects of your extinction. We have not merely survived. We have ascended." The Eidolon shifted into phase space. The Exodus Armada vanished with it, leaving only devastation and silence behind. The Concordium's era of dominance was over. The galaxy itself trembled under the weight of what had risen from exile. As the stars settled and the debris drifted like cosmic ash, a lone automated probe broadcast the last recorded words of Commander Elias Maddox. "They voted to exile us. We didn't wait to be asked twice. Now they'll spend the rest of existence waiting for our return." The stars drifted silently beyond the observation deck of the SS Revenant as the Exodus Armada coasted through the cold emptiness of deep space. Commander Elias Maddox stood motionless, hands clasped behind his back, as the final reports came in. The Concordium was broken. The homeworld was gone. The war fleets were dust scattered across the void. Lieutenant Hale approached with a subdued urgency. "All systems nominal. The Eidolon reports full operational readiness. Remaining Concordium outposts have transmitted unconditional surrender." Maddox did not turn. His voice remained low, absolute. "Status of our losses? 17% of the fleet. 34% Black Legion casualties. But morale remains unshaken. They understand what we've accomplished. We've accomplished a beginning, Maddox corrected. On board crippled Concordium ships scattered across the galaxy, surviving delegates and warlords received the incoming broadcast. The screen flickered to life, revealing the cold stare of Elias Maddox. His tone bore no fury, no hatred. It bore finality. You forced exile on us believing it would mean our death. Instead, you granted us the freedom to become what you never imagined. You governed by fear of what might happen if we ever rose too far. You forgot that human defiance thrives under pressure. We did not merely survive your exile. We transformed it into dominion. In the galactic core, surviving council members watched helplessly as the human fleet expanded across the star map. Planet after planet flipped from Concordium control to autonomous neutral zones under the human dominion. Trade routes, resource worlds, deep space lanes, all reclaimed or abandoned under the implied threat of annihilation. No shots fired. The example of what happened to the Concordium homeworld remained fresh in every mind. Let them remember, Maddox ordered. Not for revenge. For certainty. Let no species ever believe again that we can be forced back into chains. On the bridge of the Revenant, the fleet command hologram pulsed. Signals flowed from distant human colonies. New settlements were established in the deep void. The Exodus Armada returned not to Earth, but to claim new worlds, to expand. Terra Prime would become a legend, a symbol, a home no longer confined to one system. Lieutenant Hale glanced at the display and then at Maddox. Sir, multiple surviving Concordium fleets are requesting terms of cooperation. Maddox smiled grimly. They learn quickly. The next transmission sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Broadcast on every known frequency, the human dominion formally declared itself. Maddox stood at the center of the fleet command dais, the iron flag of Terra Prime unfurled behind him. The message was blunt, surgical, unrelenting. This is Commander Elias Maddox, High Executor of the Human Dominion. We claim no throne. We demand no tribute. We will not rule by consent. We do not seek alliances or approval. We stand outside your council, outside your courts, outside your laws. We will coexist where coexistence is offered in good faith. We will not tolerate aggression. There will be no second warning. We are the apex species now. Accept that truth, or vanish trying to deny it. There was no signature, no plea for negotiation. The message ended. Silence followed. Across the stars, the reactions were immediate. Some races retreated to their home sectors, closing borders, unwilling to test human resolve. Others sent envoys under white banners of truce, begging for dialogue. A few scattered warlords attempted raids on outlying Dominion outposts. Their ships were never seen again. In the command chamber of the Revenant, Sergeant Rourke stepped forward, his armor still scarred from the last boarding action. All secure, sir. No signs of further hostile intent. They're too terrified to make the same mistake twice. Maddox stared through the glass at the distant stars. His voice softened only slightly. They should be. They finally understand. An aide approached with a secure datapad. Sir, there's an incoming encrypted message. Earth. For the first time, Maddox's expression flickered with something close to warmth. Put it through. The voice of an elder statesman, the last surviving member of Earth's original High Council, filled the room. You've done the impossible. You've broken the Council. The galaxy itself bends around us. What happens now? Maddox answered quietly. We build. We settle. We prepare. The Dominion will not simply be feared. It must endure. And what of the Concordium survivors? Maddox's reply came without hesitation. We leave them their ashes. We gave them one extinction. We do not need to give them another. The call ended. The bridge remained silent. Maddox turned back to his crew. Signaled the Armada. Full expansion protocols. Locate habitable systems. Initiate colonization plans. Set the beacon for the next wave. Phase 1 of the Dominion begins now. The command was acknowledged. Across the stars, Human ships ignited engines and vanished into hyperspace corridors, scattering to the edges of known space. As the Revenant coasted in low orbit above a newly discovered blue-green world, Maddox remained at the observation deck. Lieutenant Hale joined him. "We did it, sir." Maddox shook his head slowly. "We did what we had to do. Never confuse survival for victory. We won this war because they gave us no choice. That lesson will define us." Hale nodded. "Do you think they'll ever forget?" Maddox stared out at the endless night, eyes hard and cold. "No. That's the point." The last log entry of the Exodus campaign, encoded and archived aboard the Eidolon, contained a single line written in Maddox's own hand. "They voted to exile us. We didn't wait to be asked twice. Now the galaxy belongs to those who understand exile isn't the end. It's the proving ground of kings. The human dominion was born. And the stars would never forget."